this replace the Lone Peak? I really wanted to use Jay-Z's song Big Pimpin' for this intro. Unfortunately, there is some copyright infringements or something along those lines, so I wasn't able to make my big timpin' joke. So today I'm going to be talking about my new all-time favorite Altra shoe, the Timp. Welcome to my van, and welcome to my review of what is my new favorite shoe from Altra, the Timp. I have over 1,000 miles in two different pairs of these. So I have 500 miles on this pair, and I had 500 miles on another pair that I threw away because they were falling apart. That's what happens with shoes. What I like about this Timp, as with all of Altra shoes, it has that nice foot-shaped toe box. It's also zero drop, so the amount of material under the heel is the same that's under the forefoot, so it encourages a nice natural stride. The Timp is probably the highest volume shoe of anything in the Altra lineup. It reminds me the most of the Torn, and if you've worn the road running shoe Torn, you will find this to be very similar in fit. So it has a 29 millimeter stack height, which is more than the Lone Peak. The Lone Peak has a 25 millimeter stack height. It's also less than the Olympus, which has a 36 millimeter stack height. Flipping these things over, these used to be 4 millimeter lugs. I've since worn them down, so they're just nubs at this point after 500 miles. But right out of the box, the Max Track outsole of these, nice gription, which is a combination of grip and traction. Gription. It's durable, it lasts, it's comfortable. This is a good in-between the Lone Peak and the Olympus. So if you find the Lone Peak to not offer enough cushion underfoot, but maybe the Olympus is too much, this hits that sweet spot right in between those shoes. This is not a minimalist shoe by any stretch of the imagination. That's a lot of cushion underneath. Even though there's not a rock plate in here, being that there's so much material, if I step on a rock or a root, that doesn't hurt the bottom of my foot one bit. Most of the Altra trail running shoes out there now have a gator trap. And it used to say gator trap on there, but since I don't use gaiters, I cut that off. If you don't use gaiters, feel free to do the same thing. Also up at the top, there's usually a little metal D-ring. And again, if I'm not using it, it's gone. The asymmetrical lacing pattern, if you see, it kind of curves off to the side here. And things like that, I don't really mind. They don't do anything for me. They don't add or detract to the shoe, since I wear my shoes really loose. I'll tie my shoes loose enough that I can slip them on and off, almost like a slipper. I like to do that because when I'm on trail, if I do get a little bit of a rock or a stick in there, I can just stop, pull my shoe off, dump it out, and then put it right back on. Well, why don't you wear gaiters? I personally don't like gaiters because they make my feet warm. Yeah, they hold in heat, which is not a huge deal for most people, but it's a deal for me, so I don't like them. Again, your mileage may vary. On the back here, there's a nice big loop to help pull them on. Up in the front, you can see they have this nice protective piece of material that goes all the way around. So that's going to keep your pinky toe from wearing a hole into this, which has been a problem with Altra shoes of years past. You see there's a little bit of wear on the tip. There's a little tiny hole there. And there's this general rips and tears in the material. But this is 500 miles. I'm very happy with that. Getting 500 miles out of a pair of shoes, and it still looks like this, I'd put another 100 miles on this. I might even put 200 miles on this. It just depends on the terrain and conditions. So another cool thing about the Timp is it has a gusseted tongue. What that means is the tongue, where it's attached to the body of the shoe, there's this little gusset. See that little flap? What that does is it keeps debris, rocks, sticks, sand, what have you, from falling in between that gap that is there when your tongue is attached to the shoe. So that little gusset almost acts like a gaiter in itself, which is pretty cool. The only downside I can really see to the Timp is the reflective fabric. So you can't really see because it's not dark in here, but the fabric on here has reflective materials built into it. Reflective is good for safety if you're running on the road. If anyone's driving behind you and their headlights hit your shoe, it's going to illuminate the fabric in there and give them some notice that you're there. So hopefully they don't hit you. But in trail running, not a lot of cars out there. So what the reflective material does is when someone takes a flash photograph, the shoe picks up the flash, and you'll have all of your photograph looking normal, and then these bright flash of the shoes at the bottom of it. So I'm not a huge fan of the reflective fabric. I can see why they put it in road shoes. Not a huge fan of it in a trail runner. So would I recommend the Timp? I would, if it works for you. Remember, everyone's foot is different. So what I like in a shoe, maybe you don't like that in a shoe. And just because I have a lot of miles on my feet doesn't mean my feet are the same as yours. So you need to experiment and find out what works for your anatomy. Maybe it's this, maybe it's not. I don't know. Experiment. If you have a local running store that you can try a pair of these on, I highly recommend that. Ordering shoes from the internet is tough because you really can't put on a lot of different pairs to see what works best for your foot. Unlike a shoe store where you have all the shoes out there and you can put on 10 different pairs in 10 minutes. If you do order something like this from online, I recommend ordering a few different sizes. So let's say you're a size 10. Maybe order a 9.5, a 10, and a 10.5. Then you'll have 3 pairs at home. You can try them all on, see which fits best, and then return the other 2. Then you get the experience of having a shoe store in the comfort of your own home or your own van. So that's my review of the Altra Timp. This gets all the stars. Huge fan, and hopefully it works for you. If you have any experience with the Altra Timp, go ahead and leave a comment down below or hit me up via email if you want to as well. I'm also going to throw an affiliate link up here to Amazon, so if you want to try them out. And again, they have a really good return policy, so if they don't work for you, you can just return them and get your money back. Thanks for watching.